So very good morning. So last class I had started this hemodynamics chapter. So we had looked into a few aspects about hemodynamics. So hemodynamics generally refers to the dynamics of blood flow, which is generally described by various laws that governs the blood flow in the blood vessels. So generally, as you know, blood flow from a region of high pressure zone to a low pressure zone, and we had looked into the organization of systemic circulation, pulmonary circulation, and apart from that we had looked into the various pressure changes in the vascular system, like what are the pressure changes in the vascular system, starting from in the cardiac output also they might have told, like left ventricular pressure, left atrial pressure, aorta pressure, which is 120 by 70 millimeters of mercury. Then arterioles in the systemic circulation 60 millimeters of mercury, meta arterioles 40 millimeters, capillaries 25, venules low pressure so 10 millimeters of mercury. Then when it comes to superior inferior vena cava in systemic circulation 2 millimeters. Likewise, if you see pulmonary circulation, is a low pressure system. So generally right atrial pressure is 4 to 6, whereas right ventricular pressure is 25, whereas the pressure in the pulmonary artery is 25 by 80, whereas the aorta pressure is 120 by 80. So like that we had looked into the pressure changes. Then organization and functions of vascular system, we had looked into the structures of the different types of blood vessels, like Wind Kessel vessels, which are the aorta, pulmonary artery, and their larger branches. Then we had looked into the resistance vessels, so which are the site of peripheral resistance, which are arterioles, meta arterioles, and pre-capillary splinter. So in that arterioles, they offer the maximum resistance to blood flow towards the capillaries, and they are the main site of peripheral resistance. So generally, the resistance to flow is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius of the arterioles. So fourth power of the radius of the arterioles. So therefore, if the radius is decreased to half, the resistance to flow increased by 16 times, or if the radius is increased by 2 times, the resistance to flow is decreased by 16 times. So this is the relationship between resistance and the radius. So one thing you need to know, the resistance to blood flow is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius of the arterioles. So the R is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius of the arterioles. Apart from that, we had looked into the exchange vessels, which are the capillaries, structure of capillaries, the three types of capillaries we have seen, the continuous, the fenestrated, and sinusoids. And the next we looked into capacitance vessel, which are venules and the venous compartment. The last we looked into was the shunt vessels. So there are arteriovenous shunts or AV anastomosis. So important areas where the shunts, like in the skin, toes, legs, finger, which are very important during the body temperature regulation. So especially at normal body temperature, so systemic discharge help this arteriovenous anastomosis or shunt almost closed. So these arteriovenous shunts are very important in thermal regulation. So with this, we had looked into the most important law, the pressure volume relations of Poiseuille-Huygens formula, which is a very 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 important, I told, from the exam point of view, the Poiseuille-Huygens formula. So Poiseuille-Huygens formula, so which is explains the relationship between the flow of fluid in a long narrow tube, radius and the viscosity. So it is basically a relationship among three parameters here. One is the flow, radius and the viscosity. So we have looked into the formula also. So the formula is R is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So this is a very important formula which you must know. So this Poiseuille-Huygens formula is valid for a straight rigid tube with Newton's fluid movement in a tube. So generally this is not that much applicable in the normal our body vascular system, as the blood vessels are not rigid and the blood is not a Newton's fluid so. But basically it is all more of application. We are doing the physics applying here in the blood flow, that is the Poiseuille-Huygens formula. So 8 is equal to, R is equal to 8 mu L by pi r cube. So what is this? You need to know where eta is the viscosity, L is the length divided by pi r cube, r is the radius. So one thing very important factor which I already told, the relationship between the resistance and the radius. So the resistance to the blood flow is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the radius of the arteriole. So this is very important, you need to know. So if the resistance is decreased, if the radius is decreased by half, so the resistance to the blood flow increased by 16 times. On the other hand, if the radius is increased by 2 times, if the diameter is increased by 2 times, the resistance to blood flow decreased by 16 times. So physiologically, the blood flow to the different body organs can be so effectively regulated by small change in the caliber of the arterioles. So arterioles are the site of peripheral resistance and they offer maximum resistance to the blood flow. So you need to know this formula, very important from the exam point of view. So this formula, Poiseuille-Huygens formula, so very important, and from this formula itself you will come to know what are the factors this resistance to the blood flow is being influenced by. So the various factors that influence the resistance, one is the radius of the blood vessels, the length of the blood vessel, the viscosity of the fluid. So three important factors. One is the radius, length and viscosity. Generally the length does not change much, so we can ignore the length of the blood vessel does not alter in the body. The two important factors that generally alter is the radius and the viscosity. So the radius is inversely proportional, the resistance is inversely proportional to the fourth power of radius, whereas viscosity is directly proportional to the resistance. So resistance is directly proportional to the fluid viscosity, or what we call it as vascular hindrance. So what is viscosity? So viscosity means it is the lack of slipperiness between the layers of fluid or pressure, or the presence of an internal friction. So basically it is the presence of an internal friction during the flow. So generally the unit of the viscosity is poise. So 1 poise means the force of 1 dyne per centimeter square of contact between the layers of fluid flowing with 1 centimeter per second of velocity gradient. Of course, the various factors this viscosity is dependent. One is the PCV, packed cell volume, or hematocrit, and vessel diameter, temperature, plasma protein. So in that we have looked into the plasma protein, temperature, and PCV. So there is one concept what we call it as plasma skimming also. So this, due to this plasma skimming, the hematocrit value will be low in capillary blood, low hematocrit in capillary blood, which is less than that of the venous blood. And later on we looked into critical closing pressure. So it is the pressure at which the vessel collapses, its lumen closes, and the flow ceases. This is the critical closing pressure. So generally the blood flow in a rigid tube possesses a linear relationship between the pressure and the flow, but this is not so in the non-our blood vessels. So generally when the pressure exceeds the intraluminal pressure, the vessels will collapse. So the pressure at which the blood flow stops and the vessel collapse, we call it as critical closing pressure. So at this pressure, the intramural pressure cannot equilibrate with the tension on the walls. So what are the values you need to know? Of whole blood, what is the critical closing pressure? Plasma, what is the critical closing pressure? On sympathetic stimulation, you see the intramural pressure is increased, so the critical closing pressure increases up to 50 to 60 millimeters of mercury. On the other hand, if you withdraw the sympathetic stimulation, the it will decrease, come to zero. So critical closing pressure of blood is more than that of the plasma, because the blood has got more RBCs and cells. So therefore more critical pressure is needed to pass through the capillary of diameter 5 micrometer. So, and also to maintain the most important patency of the vessel lumen. So all this we have seen in the last class itself. This is the Laplace law. So Laplace law, also we have looked into this Laplace law. So basically it is the relationship between the distending pressure and the tension on the walls in an hollow viscous. So P is equal to 2T by R. So Laplace law is P is equal to 2T by R. So in a spherical structure such as lung alveoli, so where R1 is equal to R2, so therefore P is equal to 2T by R. So this is the relationship. So Laplace law. So we apply this Laplace law in the hemodynamics, the blood flow. We apply the Laplace law in the alveoli. We apply the Laplace law in the urinary bladder. Of course, in pathological condition like dilated heart has to do more work than the non-dilated heart. So dilated heart should do more work than the non-dilated heart, because when the radius of the chamber is increased, so the greater tension must be developed in the myocardium to produce a given pressure. So these are the applications of Laplace law in capillaries, dilated heart I saw, lungs, alveoli, surfactant, how it reduces this surface tension. So you will be studying this Laplace law again in the lungs, like urinary bladder, stomach. So these are some physiological importance or significance. Like capillaries, smaller the radius of the blood vessel, lesser will be tension necessary to balance the distending pressure. So that is why the thin walled and dedicated capillaries are less prone to rupture. They are less prone to rupture. The capillaries are less prone to rupture because the diameter in them is very small, and as a result diameter is very small, so less tension is developed in the walls that is necessary to maintain or balance the distending pressure. So then these are the peripheral resistance. So we have seen peripheral resistance is the reciprocal of conductance, and resistance is also 8 theta L by pi r cube. So this is what we saw, that for that, what is that, the most important formulae, that is Poiseuille-Huygens formula. Poiseuille-Huygens formula. So that is 8 theta L by pi r cube. So what is the unit of peripheral resistance? Is millimeters mercury by per ml per second. So it is also expressed as PRU, peripheral resistance units. So total peripheral resistance at rest, the total pressure in the aorta is 100, whereas the pressure in the inferior vena cava is 0. So the difference in these two pressure is 100. So the blood flow is 100 ml. So at rest, the total peripheral resistance is 1 millimeters of mercury per ml per second. At maximum vasoconstriction, the total pressure peripheral resistance is 4 PRU. So it is 4 PRU. At maximum vasodilation, it decreases. So we had looked into the total peripheral resistance and what is the unit. At maximum vasoconstriction, the total peripheral resistance is 4 PRU. At maximum vasodilation, the total peripheral resistance reduced to 0.2, whereas for pulmonary vascular resistance it is 0.1 to 0.2 PRU, and various factors this total peripheral resistance is influenced by. Generally, length of the blood vessels is generally remains constant, so not much change, so we can ignore it. The second important parameters that affect is the radius of the blood vessels. So as I told, the radius is it is which I have already told what is the relationship, and I have already told what is the relationship. So radius is inversely proportional to the fourth power of the resistance is inversely proportional to the fourth power of radius, which I have already told. And the third important property factor that influence the viscosity. So viscosity also we have looked into. So viscosity, it is the resistance is directly proportional to the blood viscosity. So viscosity, as I already told, means lack of slipperiness between the layers of the fluid or presence of an internal friction during flow. So the unit is poise. For the plasma, the viscosity is 1.2. For the blood, it is 3. So the factors affecting viscosity: hematocrit, or PCV. Increase in the PCV increases the viscosity and decreases the flow. So the second factors in this is the velocity gradient or shear rate. Increase in the shear rate will decrease the viscosity and increase the flow. The other parameters that affect the viscosity are temperature. Cooling increases. So with the increase in the temperature, the viscosity decreases. The resistance decreases on cooling, and resistance reduces. On cooling, viscosity increases. Diameter of the blood vessels. So there is an concept, what you call it as plasma skimming. So the viscosity change per unit change in PCV is much less in small vessels than large vessels due to a effect called as plasma skimming. So what will happen here in plasma skimming? is in small vessels, the RBCs are more concentrated in the center, and cell-free plasma is more towards the peripheral region. So the net change in the viscosity when there is a change in hematocrit is less in the body than in vitro. So as a result, in polycythemia, the blood viscosity increases and peripheral resistance will also increases. High viscosity state is seen in polycythemia, abnormal shaped RBCs, abnormally high immunoglobulins, low body temperature. So as you can see here, the blood viscosity is increased in severe polycythemia, abnormal shape of RBC, abnormal high immunoglobulins, low body temperature. So applied aspect with this we have already seen in the last class. The peripheral resistance is increased in following factors or condition: voltage, atherosclerosis, myxedema. It is decreased in beriberi, hyperthyroidism and anemia. So all this most important question define peripheral resistance and what are the factors on which resistance depends. So and applied aspect also you need to write. Velocity is the rate at which the blood flow through the given vessel. So it is the displacement per unit time in centimeter per seconds. So the velocity and cross sectional area. So what is the relationship between the velocity and cross sectional area? So one thing you need to know here is it's a relationship between average velocity of blood flow to the total cross sectional area. So increase in the total cross sectional area of blood vessel decreases the velocity of blood flow. So increase in the total cross sectional area will decrease the average velocity of blood flow. So next we will look into one principle, what we call it as Bernoulli's principle, which is an important mechanism in the measurement of blood pressure, and it is also important in the Bernoulli's principle in blood flow. So it is in order especially how we explain the Bernoulli's principle in the heart attack and also in the the various conditions, what is the application of Bernoulli's principle. So Bernoulli's principle is generally it is used for studying the unsteady potential flow, which is used in the several areas like blood flow in body. If you see, we apply the Bernoulli's principle. So this is a concept of total energy, potential energy and kinetic energy. So total energy of fluid in a tube at any point is the sum of the potential energy plus kinetic energy. So total energy is the E. So that is the sum of the potential energy plus the kinetic energy. So effect of the hydrostatic pressure. So hydrostatic pressure results from the difference in the vertical height in a fluid system. In supine position, the hydrostatic pressure is eliminated. So entire CVS is at the same level. So one thing, effect of hydrostatic pressure on venous and the arterial pressure. So the distance, the heart as a zero reference. So if you see above the heart, below the heart, what is the pressure change? The venous pressure and the arterial blood. One thing you can see above the heart, the distance of 50 centimeter above the heart, so what will happen to arterial pressure? Arterial pressure decreases 80 to 40 milliliter, whereas below the heart, so which is the arterial pressure increases. So this is because of effect of hydrostatic pressure. So effect of hydrostatic pressure in an upright position above the heart at the head level, below the heart at the lower limb level, what will be the effect on the arterial pressure and the venous pressure? Of course, below the heart, like a distance of 100 centimeter from the heart as a reference point, the venous pressure is plus 80, whereas the arterial pressure is also 200 by 160 millimeters of mercury. So the above the heart, like heart as a reference, the arterial pressure is low, 80 by 40, and the venous pressure is minus 37 millimeters of mercury. So all this is because of effect of hydrostatic pressure. So one thing you need to know here is the lateral pressure is the pressure in the CVS. It is the pressure in the cardiovascular system after eliminating the hydrostatic pressure. So whatever the blood pressure you measure in the body, like with the help of sphygmomanometer, so you will be measuring what we call it as the lateral pressure. So what is the definition of blood pressure, arterial blood pressure with the help of sphygmomanometer? You are measuring the lateral pressure. So it's a lateral pressure exerted by the moving column of blood on the arterial walls. So this is the pressure in the cardiovascular system after eliminating the hydrostatic pressure. So kinetic energy is the momentum that the blood gains due to its mass and velocity. If the velocity is low, the kinetic energy is negligible. If velocity is high, the total energy is equal to more than the lateral pressure, as P, the potential energy is converted to kinetic energy. So if velocity is low, the kinetic energy is negligible. If velocity is high, the whatever the total energy is more than the lateral pressure. So this is the sum you need to know. The total energy is equal to sum of potential energy plus the kinetic energy. Now Bernoulli's principle states that in a supine position, no effect of gravity, no effect of hydrostatic pressure. So this is the formula to calculate this. So total energy is equal to lateral pressure plus 1 by 2 mu velocity square. So this is the Bernoulli's principle that in a blood vessel, where P here is the lateral pressure. So we are considering lateral pressure is the pressure in the cardiovascular system after eliminating the hydrostatic pressure. Because it's a supine position, no effect of gravity will be there, no hydrostatic pressure generated. So here this is the Bernoulli's principle in a three situation. So what will happen to total energy, what will happen to kinetic energy, what will happen to potential energy. So first scenario is pre-stenosis. You are inserting two what we call it as catheter or cannula into the arterial system. Situation number 1, you see what is happening here is pre-stenosis, normal blood flow, where the value, you can see the total energy is equal to total energy is there. So there will be a potential energy that is generated, kinetic energy that is generated, so which is 100, and kinetic energy is 101. But on the other hand, you insert the catheter here and occlude the blood vessels. So you are call it as stenosing the blood vessels. So when you stenose the blood vessels, what will happen? So when the blood vessels are stenosed, what will happen? So what will happen to the kinetic energy? What will happen to the potential energy? So you can see here, so the kinetic energy is decreased, your potential energy is also decreased. No, your E is your total energy, sorry, your total energy is decreased as a result of decrease in the as a result of decrease in the potential energy, increase in the kinetic energy, increase in the kinetic energy, like increase in the kinetic energy. Whereas once you remove the occlusion, so post stenotic level, what will happen? So the values becomes normal. So values becomes normal. The same principle we apply it when you are measuring the blood pressure also. So we are applying this principles in the measurement of blood pressure also. So one thing you need to know, so the total energy is equal to potential energy plus kinetic energy. In the first situation, you can see pre-stenotic level, the kinetic energy is very negligible. So very negligible. Whereas you stenose the thing, so you occlude the blood vessels, what will happen? The kinetic energy increases, as a result of this total energy decreases. And whereas in the third level, again you remove the occlusion, what will happen? Again the total energy increases, total energy increases as a result of increase in the potential energy. So significance is the flow is downgraded of down gradient of total energy. So the kinetic energy in mind when the pressure measured by catheterizing the vessels. So when the vessel is narrowed, the velocity of blood flow increases and the pressure decreases. So distending pressure decreases. So these are the complete picture of the whole thing, whatever we saw in these few slides. The pressure, velocity, total cross-sectional resistance, all this relationship, like in the various types of blood vessels, in the aorta, in the arterioles, in the capillaries, venules, veins, vena cava, and then one side is the systemic, one side is the pulmonary circulation. So you see the cross-sectional area is very much high in the capillaries, capillaries has got a high total cross-sectional area, whereas the velocity of blood flow. So as I already told, the relationship between the total cross-sectional area and the velocity of blood flow. So the increase in the total cross-sectional area of the blood vessel decreases the average velocity of blood flow. Circulation time, it's a time taken by particles in the blood in reaching from one point to the another point. So it basically measures the average linear velocity of the blood. So the time taken for the blood to move from arm to tongue is 15 seconds, whereas arm to lung is 6 seconds, arm to foot is 80 seconds. So these are the Viva question they will ask. What is circulation time? What is the circulation time between the arm and tongue, arm and lung, and arm and foot? So the factors, the various factors we can affect the circulation time. So there are various factors that can affect the circulation time. One is the cardiac output, exercise, excitement, and the most important, adrenaline. When you are stress, or adrenaline release from adrenal medulla, and BMR, body metabolic rate, also can influence the circulatory time. So what are the two types of blood flow in the body? So there are two types of blood flow that are present in the body. One is the laminar blood flow, the other one is the turbulent blood flow. So this is a very important thing you need to know from exam point of view. What's the difference between laminar blood flow and turbulent blood flow? How you apply the turbulent blood flow? Turbulent is this the concept you look into when you are measuring the blood pressure. So when you are measuring the blood pressure, you are applying the concept of lamellar and turbulent blood flow. So you are making the blood flow turbulent when you are measuring the blood pressure. When the blood flow becomes turbulent, then it will be noise is produced. So that noise are catched up with a stethoscope. With the help of that, you are measuring the systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So laminar blood flow is a streamlined blood flow. So here the blood flow in a large number of layers at a steady rate, with each layer remaining at the same distance from vessel wall. Also the center portion stays in the center of the vessel. So generally it shows a parabolic distribution of velocity. So the velocity of flow being greater in the center of the stream. So the parabolic velocity profile, no noise is produced, so it's silent in nature. Within the physiological limit, it shows a linear relationship with the pressure. So the second is the turbulent blood flow. Whenever you occlude the blood flow, whenever you block the blood flow, like vasoconstriction taking place. So in that situation, the blood flow in all direction in a vessel and continuously mixing with the vessel wall. So this causes a greater energy loss as compared to linear flow. So this creates a noisy flow, and generally here the flow above the critical velocity. So where you see normal site of turbulence, ventricles and aorta, or the normal site of turbulence. So none of the small resistance vessel of vascular system show turbulence. None of the small resistance vessel of vascular system show the turbulence. So generally turbulence is given by a formula, is calculated by Reynolds number, very very important from exam point of view. So this is the probability of turbulence is calculated by a formula called as Reynolds number. So Reynolds number is equal to velocity rho density of then diameter and eta viscosity. So generally for Reynolds the Reynolds number for whole blood is 970 plus or minus 80. So when we call it as a turbulent blood flow, so turbulent blood flow we call it when turbulence develop when Reynolds number exceeds 2000. So thus this is usually seen in constriction conditions of an artery, where the velocity of blood flow increases, or in severe anemia where viscosity of blood decreases. So this is the thing. In which condition it is seen whenever when the turbulence occurs, the Reynolds number should be more than 2000. So this is seen whenever there is a velocity of blood flow, increase in the velocity of blood flow, or whenever a patient suffering from anemia where viscosity is decreased. So this formula is very 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 important from exam point of view. Reynolds formula, how much is the cutoff to tell the blood flow is turbulent or laminar. So if the value is above 2000, then the blood flow become turbulent, noisy blood flow. So this is the concept we use in the measurement of blood pressure by sphygmomanometer. So significance is the Kortikoff sounds in the measurement of blood pressure, where you will study I told, and second is the murmur, it's a turbulence of blood flow. So murmur in cardiac cycle, sir would have already told. There are two types of murmur, systolic and diastolic murmurs. Kortikoff sounds are the sounds that are generated during the auscultatory method of blood pressure, which sir will that's the physiological significance of this Reynolds number or turbulent blood flow. So what are the different methods of measurement of blood flow? So one is the fixed principle, which you already seen in the cardiac output measurement. So amount of a substance taken up by an organ per unit is equal to arteriovenous difference of that substance times the blood flow. The other method are the PAH clearance method to assess the renal blood flow. The other method are the Doppler flow meter. The other method are venous occlusion plethysmography. Here, what is this venous occlusion plethysmography? Here, venous obstruction increases the size of the organ because the arterial are flow continuous as the venous obstruction occur at the low pressure. So at least you need to know that what are the names, how we measure the blood flow. One is the fixed principle, PAH clearance for renal blood flow, venous occlusion plethysmography, and the other is the Doppler flow meter. Nowadays, like clinically, how they measure the blood flow is the Doppler studies, work on Doppler effect, that is the Doppler flow meter clinically. So here they use the Doppler studies, echocardiogram, like a Doppler effect. They use the ultrasound waves are sent into the blood vessels, and the waves are reflected, and they are taken up by the sensor. So increase in the frequency of reflected wave is proportional to the rate of the flow towards the sensor. Like so, generally Doppler studies. So Doppler flow meter is the most commonest method in clinical setup to measure the blood flow. So Doppler ultrasonic flow meter. So other are electromagnetic flow meter. So Doppler ultrasonic flow meter. So distribution of blood flow, you saw like at heart 7% of blood is distributed. At venous and veins and venules there is a maximum distribution. You can see here almost 64% is distributed. Arterioles and capillaries is 7% blood is distributed. So distribution of blood flow to the various organs and regions of the body during rest and maximum activity. So one thing you can see here, when you do activity like muscular exercise, some areas of the body get decreased blood flow, some areas blood flow increases. Like you can see here, so you can either you can express the blood flow per organ ml per minute or blood flow per organ ml per 100 gram per minute. Like so, whatever if you see 100 gram per minute, so you can see here at rest coronary the heart blood flow is 80, whereas maximum activity 40. Whereas you see even skeletal muscle also, its normal is 4, when you do activity 70. So these are the things like brain blood flow 55 when you do activity 150, liver 58, activity 120. So like that, like distribution of blood flow at various organs and regions of the body during rest and maximum activity. So the pressure flow functions of an elastic arteries. So significance is very much is seen in aging. So as the age advances, the elasticity decreases. The Wind-Kessel effect will not be there. So as a result of this, due to atherosclerotic changes, the the pressure inside these elastic vessels increases as the age advances. What is the last part of this auto-regulation is how the blood flow in the body is regulated in the body. Of course, regulation of blood flow, it can be actually neural regulation or like auto-regulation. So auto-regulation is most important mechanism that is present in the regulation of blood flow. So ability of the organ to adjust its vascular resistance and maintain a constant blood flow over a wide range of arterial pressure. So there are two types of regulation of blood flow, like metabolic theory and myogenic theory. Of course, regulation of blood flow, generally one thing you need to know is neural regulation, hormonal regulation. So neural regulation means it's mainly sympathetic. Main is the sympathetic vasoconstriction, vasodilation, how it takes place. Like hormonal regulation or humoral regulation means due to some metabolites, vasodilator substances like lactate, adenosine, very important in cardiac muscle, like it's adenosine in cardiac muscle, and during hypoxia, like antihistamine, bradykinin, substance released by endothelium like nitric oxide. So all these are endothelins. So all these are some humoral regulation. The second important regulation in the regulation of blood flow is autoregulation, that is the myogenic and metabolic. So what is this metabolic or myogenic? So myogenic theory of autoregulation is, so this explains in response of blood vessel to increase or decrease in the blood pressure. So increase in the blood pressure constrict the arteriolar smooth muscle, which increases the resistance in the arterioles and maintain a steady flow of blood in the capillaries. And on the other hand, if there is a reduction in the blood pressure, the blood vessels dilate and blood flow is increased, so that maintaining a steady blood flow. Whereas metabolic theory means increased blood flow in the vessels is due to the increased accumulation of local metabolites. So what are the local metabolites accumulation that cause vasodilation, like lactate, potassium, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, increased temperature, histamine, hypoxia. So all this is metabolic theory of autoregulation. So autoregulation means it's an internal adaptive mechanism of tissues to regulate their own blood flow in spite of marked change in the blood pressure. So that is the autoregulation. So basically regulation of blood flow, neural regulation is there, humoral regulation is there, the third is the autoregulation, like autoregulation. So this ends the thing.